Mexico, land of contrasts, of gauchos and tequila, barren high plains and idyllic beaches. A country that cast a spell on Astrid Neudecker during an adventurous motorbike journey. But skepticism before the start of the trip. Astrid tells us, I never considered Mexico as a destination for a motorbike trip. To me, Mexico was beaches, turquoise blue water, Mayan culture, but motorcycling? I was all the more curious what would be waiting for me. Astrid's partner on the trip is Herbert Schwarz. Before the journey, the bikes are checked one more time and the equipment talked over together. Astrid's bike is a Desierto 3, a modified BMW 1200 GS, but really high thanks to Öhlins suspension and a special seat. Astrid is happy with it though. The journey's start is at Toluca, near Mexico City. Carlos, a friend of Herbert's, has already taken care of the customs formalities. The bikes are ready and the two only have to deal with routine matters. In no time, the bikes are ready for the journey. They're approaching 300 kilos. Essential before they get properly started, a thorough test drive. Carlos and some of his friends can't pass up the opportunity to accompany Astrid and Herbert on their shakedown tour. Today we rode up a volcano and we're at 4,000 meters here. It was very rough and stony on the way up, so we had plenty to do with the BMW, but it was perfect to get used to this feeling of driving on gravel again. It's big, but I'm reassured now, it goes really well. In the evening, Carlos gives them valuable tips for the journey. He knows the land like the back of his hand. The tour will head northwards, towards Copper Canyon. At the start, to be honest, I was a bit disappointed. There was endless traffic, it stank, the countryside was boring. I thought if it carries on like this, I won't be coming back. After 3 hours, they reach the dirt tracks of the Sierra Gorda, a mountainous area northeast of Mexico City. The route is completely off the tourist track. If you leave the main roads in Mexico, you're basically on dirt tracks. Late in the evening, a ravenous Herbert and Astrid reach the Sierra village of Ixitilla. The small restaurant's dining area is also the kitchen. Astrid is curious to see how quesadillas, cheese-filled flour or corn tortillas, are prepared. A nearby attraction is the sculpture garden of Las Posas, quirky constructions in the middle of the rainforest. It's totally brilliant here. You feel like Indiana Jones. These concrete sculptures were built by some crazy Englishman named Edward James. I have to say that something's often left for posterity when someone vents their spleen. It's a long way to Copper Canyon. To cover the distance, Astrid and Herbert have to accept more long stretches on tarmac. The map promises a tempting shortcut through no man's land. The first reward, solitude and idyllic countryside. But it's not long until there's a damper on their mood. The map and the track don't match up. Even the GPS map is imprecise. The two can only guess where exactly they are. The two can hardly estimate how much road they have ahead of them and just hope that they're on the right path. The sun is already low. Astrid and Herbert make the necessary preparations for an overnight camp while there's still light. We've almost always slept outside, sometimes even putting up the tent. I just love this off-road life, simply being and living outside. That's the best thing about a journey like this for me. The path was the right one. Astrid is delighted. Her 20-liter tank was almost empty. The friendly petrol pump attendant explains the way to Copper Canyon.
Okay, wish you good luck.
Finally, they reach the longed-for junction. From here on, there'll be no more tarred roads. The Barranca del Cobre, or Copper Canyon, is the main attraction of Sierra Tarahumara, a nature reserve which stretches for around 30,000 square kilometers. It's the biggest and most rugged gorge system in North America. The total length of all the canyons is 1,500 kilometers. Dusty, stony mountain paths alternate with river crossings. On 2 wheels, Astrid finds these wet elements heavy going. If I'm fed up with one thing, it's fording through water. It's an absolute horror for me. You can never see whether there are big stones under there. Then on the BMW, I can't reach properly, and half the time I get stuck anyway. And that really annoys me, because it should just be a matter of courage. Herbert is good-humored and clever. He doesn't let his annoyance at his wet feet show. He probably knows that it wouldn't do him any favors. It's completely deserted here. Cattle enclosures are often the only sign that people live in this area. The travel comfort is equally rustic. On a journey like this, you can completely throw out the washing habits you have at home. But this is what we did. Whenever we found a river, we jumped in and washed there. That works. The top priorities are food and fuel anyway. Finding fuel on the road was actually never a problem. When there weren't petrol stations, we always found someone in the villages who would pull out a couple of barrels and then just suck to prime it, and we always got our tanks filled up. Keeping supplied with food is no problem in Mexico either. You always get something to eat. The only question is what. In the worst case, it's tins and spaghetti. It's also striking that it's sometimes easier to buy beer than water. Astrid and Herbert did not count on the extreme temperature changes in Copper Canyon. Yesterday was over 30 degrees, and this morning, this. When you pull on your boots, it's like you're getting into chunks of concrete. Everything is stiff and disgusting. At any rate, I'm glad the BMW has heated handlebars. Not only the temperatures, but also the paths in Copper Canyon are extreme. At times, they negotiate an altitude difference of 1,000 meters in just a few kilometers. In San Rafael, Astrid and Herbert pass the El Chepe railway line. El Chepe is a train which travels from Los Mochis on Mexico's west coast to Chihuahua in the north of the country. On its spectacular journey, it negotiates an altitude difference of 2,400 meters. From here, it's not far to El Divisadero in the north of the canyon area. This little town marks the divide between Atlantic and Pacific. This is the main ravine of Copper Canyon, the Barranca de Urique. The view is spectacular. The drop is up to 1,800 meters. Time is pushing on. Astrid and Herbert have a long stage to Los Mochis on the coast. Wistfully, they turn their backs on the fascinating canyon world. At nearly midnight, they reach their destination, and also a different world. We're really back in civilization, and that also has advantages, of course. There's a hotel and, of course, a shower, the first in 10 days. And we've earned it. From Los Mochis, they'll take the ferry. Ahead of Astrid and Herbert lies Baja California. The two motorcyclists now have many kilometers through the Mexican mainland behind them. The adventurous trip has led the pair to the far northwest of the country. The traveling style is characterized by the romance of outdoors and purism. Mexico delighted the pair with its versatility and also its people. The Mexicans are incredibly friendly and approachable and at the same time reserved and not intrusive. Wherever we stopped, whether to fill up, to shop, someone always wandered past, asked how we were, where were we from, what we were doing, and told us it's great that we were biking through their country. The only thing I kept regretting is that I hardly speak any Spanish. The trip is no relaxing holiday, however. 4 weeks is not much time for their planned program. It isn't helped by the fact that imprecise maps delay them again and again. And then they had to go at it even harder. We had stages of up to 700 kilometers, and sometimes it was only 100. It was completely varied. I have to say that Mexico is a huge country, and if you want to see a bit of it, you simply have to clock up the kilometers, and these long road stretches are part of that. That was the most exhausting part of it for me, though. Dirt roads are fun, it's exciting, thrilling, but tarmac I simply find deathly dull. In Los Mochis, they head onto the ferry. The destination is La Paz, in the south of Baja California. The Baja Peninsula is supposed to be an off-road paradise, but at first there's nothing of that to be seen. Blazing asphalt is again the order of the day. With the big BMWs, however, it's no problem. They're comfortable and offer good wind protection. Astrid is riding the Desierto 3, a modified BMW 1200 GS, and Herbert the GS Adventure. Getting used to these heavy bikes was not so easy at first. At the start, it was quite laborious getting to grips with the weight of a heavily laden BMW. Not on the tarmac, of course, it was no problem there, but on the dirt roads. I often cursed and thought, if only I had a light one-cylinder. On the other hand, I have to say that BMW is a perfect compromise for what we did in Mexico. We didn't break down at all. The only things that we had to do were keep an eye on the oil and check the tire pressure and adjust it according to the road conditions. And now and again, beat out the air filter. That was really it. After Ciudad Insurgentes, they're off onto the dirt track. The Baja shows off its harsh, wild, and romantic side. The peninsula is 1,300 kilometers long and between 45 and 170 kilometers wide. A furrowed chain of mountains stretches the entire length of this baked land like a spine. Baja California is a country of extremes, inhospitable and at the same time breathtakingly beautiful. An El Dorado for all desert fans, lovers of solitude, and adventurers, like Astrid. What I find great on the Baja are the cactus-lined paths. This is a totally new image that I haven't seen in all my traveling so far. You shouldn't fall, though, otherwise you could end up looking like a cactus yourself. Herbert ran into one. His arm was riddled with needles, and we had to do an emergency procedure with the multi-tool. I really can't do without that. One asphalt main road travels the entire length of the Baja. Off of this, there are just tracks, tracks, and more tracks. Even though you're close to the consumer-oriented USA, you shouldn't become careless. The important thing on the Baja is that if you leave the main roads, you have to stock up with supplies, and not just food, but also water and petrol. There's absolutely nothing out there, only desert and cactus. Astrid and Herbert love being far away from civilization on their trips, but that means they have to accept a few things. Washing my hair in salt water is not my usual cup of tea. But the way we're traveling through the Baja, the opportunities for washing in fresh water are more than limited. The Gulf of California is ideal for bathing, but today the destination is the Pacific coast. A heavenly sunset is accompanied by wistfulness. The journey is drawing to an end. As a change to the tasteless tortillas, today there'll be proper bread. Astrid makes some flatbread out of flour, water, salt, and some dried yeast, which will be baked in the hot sand under embers. At first, Herbert is skeptical, but the Mexican variation of Sahara bread tastes surprisingly good. You always have to stop at the best moment. Today was our last night on Baja California. A real shame, because the Baja is a real off-road paradise. We should have had more time here. What I like so much about the Baja is that you're never far away from the sea. When you've had enough of dust, sand and gravel, you simply head back to the coast, either to the Pacific or the Gulf of California. Ahead of Astrid and Herbert lies a 17-hour ferry crossing to Mazatlan on the Mexican mainland. Then it's another 1,000 kilometers back to Mexico City, the start and end point of a wonderful motorbike journey that neither will soon forget.